Hello, my friends. Welcome to Leadership Synergized, where we explore purpose, impact, and the people who bring both to life through leadership. I'm your host, Kevin Smith. Today, we're honored to be joined by Dr. Tracy Lorey, Superintendent of the Greater Jasper Community School Corporation located in Southern Indiana. With more than 3 decades of experience as an educator and a leader, Dr. Lorey brings a servant's heart, a systems-level mindset, and a deep commitment to students, families, staff, and her school community. In this episode, she shares powerful insights on staying true to mission, leading with humility, and cultivating a shared vision that empowers others to thrive. Let's dive in. Good day and welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Synergized. I'm your host, Kevin Smith. We are here with Dr. Tracy Lorey, the superintendent, Tracy Lorey, the superintendent of the Greater Jasper School Corporation located in southwestern Indiana, roughly about an hour and 20 minutes, almost due west, about half an hour off I-64 from Louisville, Kentucky in that aspect. Dr. Lorey, you were talking about the nickname your husband has for you, calling you the blue-collar leader in that setting. And as you're speaking, I love the terminology because so many times individuals look at those with the titles that are higher up the organizational change as leaders, but they kind of maybe see them as separated a couple of blocks away, so to speak, from the org chart. But I don't know about you, but everything I have found, success and significance in life is still all about rolling the sleeves up and just doing what needs to be done at that point in time. And you described that very well.
Well, I think being a humble servant of the people that you serve is so vitally important because it helps them to see that we collectively all together are moving forward with our shared vision of what we want school to look like. And we know that every job in the school system needs to be done well and to make that happen. And I think in order to have an impact on a district, no matter what the size, whether you're a smaller rural or you're a large urban district, you have to be visible, you have to be approachable, and you have your staff and students need to know that you are there to serve their needs alongside of what is actually taking place on a daily basis.
Dr. Lorey, thank you again. I appreciate great communication and great message that you're providing, not only with the last episode, but as we're launching this episode. If I had to put Dr. Lorey's leadership philosophy into a sentence or two, I would basically say she is a leader who first and foremost comes alongside and never stays out in front. And that's where vision connection, communication connection, and quite honestly, having your ear to the ground can help ensure that the mission and vision stays on the proper path. So kudos to you in that aspect. I know this isn't something you just slept on last night, and here you are today in that regard. You mentioned 33 years. Share with us some individuals who have really had an impact on you as you've developed not only your leadership skill, but your philosophies of life.
Sure. It's really hard to pinpoint just one individual who has had that impact on me as a human, as a person, as an educator, as a wife, mother, leader. I feel like first and foremost, some of that foundation starts at home with your own parents who raised you. And I would say my father was the first person that I would look up to as an example of someone that I wanted to be like. He had a strong work ethic. He was very committed. He had a lot of perseverance. And I saw those things in him. And I have to think that some of that rubbed off on me as an individual. Otherwise, I don't think that I would maybe be here where I am today, serving the students and staff of the Jasper community. I think as you moved along, we always talk about how people don't remember necessarily what they learned in school, but they remember the teachers who had that impact on them. And if anybody ever asks me a teacher who had a great impact on me, I would tell you it was Tom Gallagher at Bar Reeve High School as a math teacher who certainly taught me the value of a desire to learn and to continue to have grit and persevere, even when maybe I you might have failed at something, you just kept trying until you got it right. And I just think that type of grit is something that you learn from others, but you also have to have it embedded in you as part of who you are to move forward. And I think grit is something we all need. It's something that we need to attend to and continue to persevere through good times and bad. And that's a quality that I think, you know, um, I certainly have gotten through some of my mentors. Um, as an educator, I will tell you my very first principal, Ray Mailing, who is the principal at Ireland Elementary School, he really shaped who I am as a leader, honestly. He hired me, he mentored me as a teacher as well as a future leader, and he really modeled that student first mentality. We're here to meet the needs of our students. He was a perfectionist, hyper focused on curriculum and instruction, hyper focused on what outcomes our students were performance would be telling us about our teaching and the resources that we were using and the instructional methods. And so, that hyper focus on teaching and learning and the outcomes of our students really set the stage for what later would become part of what drives the decisions that we make, even not just out of the classroom and the school level, but even at the district level. And so I felt like he really empowered those leaders within his school to be creative, to implement initiatives, and he was very supportive of that. But he always kept the eye on the prize, like what is the outcome for our students going to be? And I think that was truly vital. Um, and then, of course, there are other people who come in and out of your life. I'm sure you know that. There are people who come for a short time and are there just for a moment. And then there are others who stay long term. But I can tell you that I've had so many people who have entered into my life and taught me great lessons like calm strength, purpose with a sense of urgency, being able to manage complex challenges but doing it with the ability to have clarity or empathy and always keeping the students' needs in our mindset first. So I can't narrow it to just one.
I would be worried if you could, probably, right? Given the career and the success you've had. Dr. Roy, sometimes I look at education and I feel like at points in times it certainly stands out unique in many other industries from this standpoint. Many times that classroom teacher may have that child for 1 year. In today's transient world, it may be a semester or even less, and yet not be able to see the impact that they possibly have made on them, that which may come later in life. For example, when I was in high school, I wasn't much of a reader in that regard. But 20 years ago, God started putting the interest of reading in my life, and today, those examples that happened almost 50 years ago now, in that aspect, junior high school and high school have played a key part in my interest in how I can read and pull away much better. So when you think about educators and the opportunities they have, to not necessarily feel the satisfaction as much as getting to the heart to where they continuously are adding and growing their own value to raise the value level they have for their children. How do you see those who do it well accomplish that?
I think, um, like when you think about transforming the lives of a student, transformational learning, transformational environments in a school classroom, a school, or even a district, I think you have to have a level of trust for the individuals and between individuals. I think clarity is important, and then just consistency in expectations, consistency in the delivery of communication, consistency in the expectations, reciprocal between individuals. And I think that having trust, clarity, and consistency really do help us like establish what that clear vision is going to be. Um, and so anytime you think about embarking on change for students or change in teaching methods or change in programs, I think first and foremost, you have to have trust among the individuals. And I think you need to be able to communicate clearly. And I think you have to have consistency of how you systemically um, share, deliver program information, support. I
They
think
are.
those are very important qualities in making any kind of a transformation in any person, whether it's a student, a teacher, or a fellow leader.
Well, I think your key word in what you said is that support piece. So many times in the natural in this life as human beings, we try to do everything ourselves or keep it compartmentalized. God didn't intend for that to ever be the case. Again, that's been a challenge for me in that aspect. And I'll reflect back on a leader who had certainly one leader in my life that had a major impact. The late Don Sharon, who's president CEO of Kimball Electronics here in Jasper as well. I think passed away a couple years ago next month in that setting. But he used the phrase constancy of purpose, and everything you just said kind of puts that all there in that regard. And it really goes back when I think about educators in my time as a building leader, as a superintendent, even a classroom teacher, those who felt that they had had enough, they had hit a wall, they were burned out. And that occurs anytime during the school year nowadays, right? It used to be everyone would wait till the end of the school year, then they would make the transition. But you could have day one tomorrow, and the next day somebody's resigning, and I've had enough in that regard. But I really sense the common denominator really was the support in regards to being able to stay true to self. Said another way, the self-awareness aspect that we all, not only in leadership, but you would probably agree in education as well. I used pretty naive in my younger days, right? It was look in the mirror and say, yeah, that's me. I'm aware. Here I come, world. But what God taught me is that, you know what? Self-awareness is in the moment, and that's every moment, every opportunity you have on this life.
Mhm. We always say, when you wake up each morning, you choose your own weather. You can choose for the day to be a cloudy day or it can be a sunshiny day. And it's all about what you choose as an individual. But I would be flippant if I didn't say that the environment that you enter into also can help shape whether that weather is going to be consistent as what you chose for the day. I've often found that um, we first have to understand ourselves as an individual and what our needs are and feel confident and supported and know that we have a system of support, whether it's in our school or in our home. And if we know that we have that and we have mechanisms in place to be able to adapt, I think that would help quell perhaps some of that burnout type of feel. And we all have ebbs and flows of energy and um, levels of, success or failure. But as long as we know we have a good support system with people who are closest to us and people who are within our work family, I think we can weather those storms.
Dr. Lorey, you talked in last week's episode, and I think you're on the peripheral here. 4 or 5 years ago, this world experienced the COVID pandemic, and it certainly shocked a number of industries, education, I believe, certainly being right there at the forefront with perhaps some others like medical in those areas, and the focus being placed on the impact it had on the students and the social and emotional learning. I also have a great concern and experience on the long-term impact on the adults, the educators as well. Not trying to push the students below that setting. But what are some things that you and your corporation have done since the COVID pandemic that maybe is different in the SEL category today than what it was pre-COVID timeframe?
Um, wow. COVID, who would have ever thought that we would have been hit by a pandemic 5 years ago and just how it flipped our world upside down? Um, no matter how much planning you would have done on the side of planning for instruction in an alternative type of setting, there's no possible way we could have prepared ourselves for what that time period would have offered. I think one of the biggest mind shifts that we had seen as a result of the pandemic is just the use of technology as a learning tool, but also as a tool for productivity.
Mm.
And and so during all things COVID, we very quickly had to shift our mindset to we are going to have to deliver instruction in a method that doesn't respect that need for relationships that you get reciprocally day in and day out within a classroom between the adults in the building, between the adults and the students in a building. And so, trying to figure out how to capture that in a virtual environment was very challenging. And also, I think knowing that technology as a tool is very valuable, but it doesn't replace the human touch or the human factor in what learning is, because learning is all about the relationship that you have between the teacher and the student and how well that teacher can navigate that relationship as they support the student from introduction of content through independent practice and then again showing outcomes. So technology, I think, was one of those areas that I think that we really started we hung our hat on it very heavily at first, but now we're trying to think about technology as a learning tool, but not necessarily the end all be all. And then add on artificial intelligence with that, and you get a whole other set of variables to contend with. I also think one of the things that has become important in the mindset of how to support teachers is that, rolling out initiatives without the right types of professional learning and support systems in place are never going to go as well as you would like them to do. And so, or to occur. So I think it's important that if you're willing to invest in an initiative, let's talk about artificial intelligence just as an example of one. We have to recognize that our educators are also learners. And so as a district, we have to invest in them as a learner before we can ever have them feel competent enough to be able to deliver or utilize a resource or carry out an initiative that we want them to do. And so I think investing in our teachers as learners first, as we roll out new initiatives or expectations, is vital in finding success, not only for the initiative, but that our teachers feel like they have the tools that they need to do it successfully.
Dr. Tracy Lorey, thank you again for being with us. Thank you so much. And thank you all for watching. And I hope you've got more than one thought going now, because there's been a great deal of wisdom shared by this wonderful leader that you see on the screen. God bless. My friends, thank you so much for joining us on Leadership Synergized. Dr. Tracy Lorey reminded us today that leadership at its best is humble, focused, and always grounded in service. If you found value in this conversation, please subscribe, share this episode, and reflect on how you, too, can lead with integrity, intention, right where you are. Until next time, stay inspired and keep leading well.